Again, thank you, Josh Fox. I just want to remind everybody that extended applause just eats into the amount of time for other people to speak.
Good.
Go ahead.
Good morning, afternoon, sorry. My name is Josh Fox. I'm the director of the film Gasland. I'm going to submit it here for your review in the box. And I'd also like to call attention to our website, gaslandthemovie.com, in which we've listed all of our research and addressed the industry smear campaign against the film and submit the entire website for the DEC's review. I'll keep my comments probably below 3 minutes. I have a cold. I think I'm sick of DEC hearings. I'm in the enviable position of opening the floodgates. I'm sure you're going to hear 10 hours of thousands of reasons why not to hydrofrack in New York. Your premise is wrong. Your premise is, how should we frack New York? And that is the wrong premise. The question should be, should we or should we not frack New York? Not how we should allow this industry in. A regulatory approach to hydrofracking has failed everywhere around the world where it's been employed to try to control this industry. I challenge everyone on your commission to find a single place on earth where a regulatory approach has stopped hydrofracking from contaminating water, from polluting air, from creating a public health crisis, and from creating civic unrest. The entire SGEIS should be withdrawn, and clearly fracking should be banned in New York State. That is, so I'm amazed and grateful to all the people who are going to participate in this democratic process. But the question itself should be withdrawn. The process is a charade, it is a sham, it is a false premise. And I'm sure you will hear hundreds, if not thousands, of reasons why in the following 10 hours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fox. Arthur Jerry Kremer. Hold on. Okay, we'll just wait. It's just going to eat into people's time to speak.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak in behalf of New York Area, the Affordable Reliable Electricity Alliance. We're over 200 members, including the New York City Partnership, the Building Congress, and a variety of unions and upstate chambers. We support hydraulic fracturing because we think we need the addition—
1 second, stop the clock. That is unacceptable. That's unacceptable at a hearing. We will just wait. There is no booing of people. You can applaud, you can whatever not, but that was unacceptable at this hearing. And we will wait until everyone behaves. Please, sir.
New York Area supports hydraulic fracturing. With the energy supply the key to our state's economic recovery, and much of upstate, which is now an economic wasteland, time is of the essence. In the future of natural gas, a research study from MIT, experts find that the environmental impact of fracking is challenging and manageable. It advises it is essential that both large and small companies follow industry best practices, that water supply and disposal are coordinated on a regional basis, and that improved methods are developed for recycling of return fractured fluids.
Excuse me, stop the clock, sir. Sir?
No, wait.
Please. Please, sir, sit down. It's not your time to speak. Sit down.
I am number 2.
Then that's fine. Then you'll go next. Sir, I have a list. Sit down.
I am second.
Sit down, sir. Sit down.
This man.
Sit down.
Excuse me.
Sir? Mr. Kremer.
A balanced approach to hydrofracking, dealing in mind the safety concerns and the fact that you want to attract industry to New York State, I think is critical to this process. New York buys its natural gas from places as far south as Louisiana. We even buy them from countries who are our enemies. Natural gas is something that we desperately need. If we're going to be anti-nuclear, anti-gas, anti-wind power, then the answer is the state of New York will not have any economic future. It's a common sense approach, and we hope you'll take it. Having abundant, affordable natural gas ensures that this state is going to have some degree of prosperity. We need to do it. We don't want to rely on Arab oil. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't point out one thing. If you travel to upstate New York, you find out how desperate landowners, farmers, and businesses very much want to be revitalized. Farms...
Stop, sir. We'll wait. We'll wait. Okay. Please.
Farms are wasting away. Homes can't be repaired. Empty stores in small villages. There's a dead economy. I invite people in this room to take the trip upstate and see what the people there want instead of substituting their judgment for them. We very much appreciate these hearings. We urge you to do the right thing. We support hydrofracking.
Thank you. I'm just going to... Yes, I'm just going to remind everybody, again, to treat everybody with respect. Everybody has a right to speak who's signed up here. And really, treat everyone with respect. This is a public hearing. Now, next, I'm going to call Clark Rhodes.
Tell us who you are. Clark Rhodes from Worcester, New York. The DEC Chapter 4 is a combination of a sales document and a novel titled Lying by Omission that has a hole so big that it could sink the great ship, the USS President Cuomo. The State University, there was a project costing $1.6 million. It was, State University was the project manager. New York State Energy Development Authority paid the money. The lead researcher was Dr. D. Jacoby, who co-authored all 24 papers. And it can be found in Technophysics 2002, volume 353, page 75 through 113, hereinafter referred to TNP. All the figures in Chapter 4, Geology, range between the year 2002 and 2009, except one. That is figure 4.13, a 35-year-old document that shows most of New York State with few major faults and virtually no minor ones. Why not use the two geological fault maps in TNP that show hundreds of minor and many major fault lines? What has this to do to the water of New York City? Everything. These are the maps. You can see 4.13 is blank, the 1977. These are the maps by Jacoby, which show major and minor faults. This is from Dr. Jacoby in his I'm sorry.
Close to the mic, Mr.
This is from Dr. Jacoby in his last discussions and conclusions. The conclusion is inescapable that large number of faults do exist in New York State, and that several of them have been seismically active. An important observation is that these seismically active faults crisscross large portions of New York State. The high number of faults means most cultural facilities, e.g. waste disposal sites, bridges, pipelines, factories, generation plants, pipelines providing New York City with water, are not far from potentially active faults. Thus, this is vitally important to assess the maximum credible seismic event that can be expected along these faults. From another map, which is potential yields of wells in unconsolidated aquifers in New York State and Hudson-Mohawk Valley, I combine these sheets and I draw the following conclusions. Using figure 4 okay.
Just please sum up, Mr. Rhodes.
If Governor Cuomo is psychopathic and willing to sacrifice millions of New Yorkers for his obsession to become president, then he should be removed from office by all available means.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. Can you, if you're going to submit your, are you submitting that? Have you submitted written testimony? Yeah, okay. All right, you can just leave it in the box then. Louise Johnson.
Louise Johnson, Sky Hill Farm, Organic Eggs, Schoharie County. The drinking water on my upstate rural farm might also be your downstate urban drinking water. Our county aquifers are large, connected underground lakes that flow towards the New York City watershed. What's more, these huge contiguous aquifers are already compromised because of karst, a very fragile underground network of cavernous limestone, as exemplified in the nearby Howe Caverns, not far from my farm. Karst, with its numerous sinkholes and caves, allows surface water to pollute groundwater. Contaminants from household septic systems and farm and small industry runoff have already entered our upstate drinking water. Hydrologist Paul Rubin wrote, "We have the most hydrologically vulnerable aquifers anywhere." County-wide record floods have also polluted our aquifers with everything imaginable from medicine cabinets, barns, plastic factories, gas stations. And again, these aquifers flow toward your city drinking water. If our farmland is allowed to be fracked, the repeated pressure of 10,000 pounds per square inch will transfer horizontally through the fragile karst, which lays above and below aquifers. Cave collapses and the buildup of methane and radon in caves will further threaten our endangered bats, which, like honeybees, are essential to the balance of many other ecosystems. Fracking wastewater and diesel fuel will penetrate into the karst through streams and sinkholes, even in a rainstorm. Think of the cumulative effect of fracking and refracking one well, then the well next to it. There are to be 6 or more wells drilled and fracked on a single well pad. Wells with cracked or aging cement casings and seals will leak toxins into underground pathways to our groundwater lakes. There is no way of confining fracking chemicals once they move through the cavernous openings into rapidly flowing aquifers. The fact that our county has serious seismic faults and a history of earthquakes will facilitate collapses and water contamination. 91 quakes since 1973 in our county, including the largest in the state's Gasland area. The SGEIS does not mention or map karst. It doesn't include an accurate map of seismic faults. And although the DEC has outlawed drilling on 100-year floodplains, it uses obsolete floodplain maps. So man-made mini-quakes and injections of toxins into our caverns and aquifers, our floodplains and faults should be banned.
Thank you. Next speaker is Katherine Skopic.
Preserve creation, oppose fracking. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm New York State resident Katherine Skopic, Episcopal environmentalist, participant in the United Nations Commission on Sustainable Development, and work with 350.org, Food and Water Watch, and United for Action. New York State has been blessed with some of the most pristine and rich farmlands in the world. These are precious birthrights, necessities that sustain its citizens in all life. Such gifts are not to be tampered with or endangered for any reason. Respecting all people and after considering all aspects of this issue, I have concluded that regulation not being effective for multiple reasons, such as the brittle cement used to frack a well causes undetectable leaks, and there is insufficient oversight. There are hundreds of reasons not to frack. I'm going to focus on just 3. 1, Children, everybody in the room, stage and audience, raise your hand if you have children. Yes, raise your hand if you have grandchildren. This is a first and foremost reason not to frack. What kind of world are we leaving for them? Will they have clean water and unpolluted land to produce food? It's our responsibility to secure their future and to leave the world better than we found it, not worse. 2, health. More than 250 doctors across New York State wrote to Governor Cuomo, pointing out that there is no study on the long-term effects of fracking on human health included in the environmental impact statement. In fact, in the 1,500-page report, key words such as physician, nurse, endocrine, metabolic, healthcare, or pediatrics don't even appear once. This despite the many abnormal and well-documented cases of cancers, neurological and immune system disorders found in residents of states where fracking has been going on. 3rd, climate change. Through scientific analysis of ice cores, we know that in the last 650,000 years, at no point did the CO2 level rise above 300. Our CO2 is now at 390 parts per million. James Hansen and Bill McKibben have ascertained that if we can get the CO2 levels back to 350, we might prevent a tipping point. We have alternatives to fossil fuels. Other states and countries effectively are developing adaptable renewable energy technologies and creating long-term jobs, healthy economies, and sustainable environments in the process. I believe that we too can do this here in New York State. For example, thermal solar energy retrofits with hot water heating systems. Lastly, in relation to hydrofracking, I believe that natural gas is an oxymoron. There is nothing natural about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Ann Basson.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I want to start out with some facts about water. Forget the regulations. First of all, less than 1% of all water on Earth is drinkable. That is less than 1% of water on all Earth is drinkable. Second, 884 million people in the world lack access to safe drinking water. Over 3 million people every year die from drinking contaminated water. Next, moving on to fracking. One frack well uses 3,500,000 gallons of water. Now, given the preciousness and scarcity of clean water, what on earth are we doing? What on earth are we trying to use our scarce, precious commodity, throwing it away in the process of fracking? And now there's documented cases in Dimock, Pennsylvania, of people having their water contaminated. There's livestock dying. There's fish dying. The earth is dying if you allow this. I'm going to just move to feelings. I am outraged that this is even a thought. I'm outraged, and I would continue to say that the gas companies have no right to take our scarce and precious water from us.
Thank you. Next is Bonnie Lane Weber.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Lane Weber. I did a video, True Cost of Food. I was am co-chair of the Sierra Club National Sustainable Consumption Committee, but I'm not talking as the Sierra Club, I'm talking as Bonnie Lane Weber. We are responsible for protecting our food sheds in New York State. That requires us to ban hydrofracking in the state so that our food will not be contaminated by chemicals used in the fracking process, in addition to brine, heavy metals, radioactive elements, and more that will come up along with the methane. The 59 doctors and scientists, from physicians, scientists, and engineers for healthy change, in their letter sent to Governor Cuomo on September 15th, said it much better than I. They warned Governor Cuomo that municipal drinking water filtration systems are not equipped to handle chemicals and contaminants resulting from hydrofracking. We, the undersigned scientists, write to you regarding the ability of municipal drinking water filtration systems to adequately remove contaminants of the sort found in return fluids from hydraulic fracturing, should they somehow enter the water system. The state has proposed that hydraulic fracturing not be allowed in the watersheds of New York City and Syracuse water systems, where no filtration occurs, but be allowed in watersheds where drinking water is filtered before use. The presumption appears to be that municipal water filtration plants provide protection from potential contaminants. The best available scientific information does not support this presumption. I'm not going to continue reading. I just want to say that we must take care of our food and water, and you can't drink money.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Stephanie Renzo.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Renzo. I'm a former McKinsey business analyst, and I have a Harvard Business School MBA. I would like to challenge the SGEIS on account of the numbers. I think if we added up all the numbers properly, fracking would be a losing proposition. I believe that we need to revise the SGEIS to incorporate the new US Geological Survey that has now reduced the available gas estimate to 84 trillion from 401 trillion cubic feet. So the job numbers and the revenue numbers have to come down massively. On the cost side, the SGEIS, I don't believe, includes hardly any of the costs that we as New Yorkers will have to incur as a result of fracking. The heavy deterioration of the roads, the cost of the increased inspectors, the cost of the emergency responses, the cost of the loss of value of real estate, the water filtration system, which will not even filter out the radioactivity in the water. We have revenue losses and job losses in vital US industries that have not been netted off against the acclaimed job gains. For example, tourism, agriculture, wine, beer, sports, real estate. Those will be heavy job losses that have not been accounted for. There's the cost of society of increased sickness. This can be modeled. This has not been done. There's not been any human impact study on the pollution that will be caused by fracking. It's not that it's just the risk, it's actually a part of the fracking process that cannot be avoided. I refer to Sandra Steingraber's letter to Andrew Cuomo, November 16th, which is extremely well researched on the subject of cancer and fracking. Also refer to Deborah Rogers of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, who says it's confirmed that gas drilling contributes more toxic than all cars, trucks, airplanes combined. We need to study the Barnett Shale evidence because they are ahead of us in fracking in their area and the health effects. They had to pay for costly impact statements after the fact. They had to pay for air monitoring stations at millions of thousands of dollars, which have not been accounted for. And to the lone fracker who jumped in line before, I want to say that German strawberry farmers are making fortunes from using solar panels in part of their crop rotation today. Germany is 28% renewable, and Austria is 67% renewable as a country.
Thank you.
We can
Thank
do
you.
it.
Paul Rush.
Good afternoon. I am Paul Rush, Deputy Commissioner of the Bureau of Water Supply in the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on natural gas drilling, a subject of vital interest to the City of New York. In the interest of time, I'll summarize the content of our extensive comments contained in a letter we'll be submitting to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. The city greatly appreciates and supports the proposed ban on natural gas drilling utilizing high-volume hydraulic fracturing within the New York City drinking water watershed. We commend New York State and the Department of Environmental Conservation for stepping up to protect this vital resource. Balancing environmental and public health concerns with the need for adequate energy resources and economic development is a complex and challenging issue, not only in New York, but throughout the nation. As you know, the New York City water supply system provides high-quality drinking water to nearly half the state's population. The Marcellus Shale underlies the entire west of Hudson portion of the New York City water supply. The proposed ban on high-volume hydrofracking within the New York City watershed address a large proportion of the issues the city has previously raised in connection with environmental review of these activities. The most significant remaining issue is the protection of the city's water supply infrastructure outside of the watershed. The specific risks to the city's tunnels, which are lined with unreinforced concrete, include damage from direct penetration, differential pressures, microseismic activity, and impacts from migration of fluids and or gas. The revised draft's SGEIS merely provides for coordination with the city on wells within 1,000 feet of city tunnels, which only addresses damage from direct penetration to the tunnel. In 2008, the city hired the joint venture of Hazen Sawyer and LBG to conduct an objective assessment of hydrofracking's potential impacts on the water supply system. The city recently added Hager Richter Geosciences to the joint venture project team to focus on potential impacts to the water supply infrastructure for microseismicity and reactivation of faults. Their technical report indicates that the recent studies of fractures and potential faults, as well as existing information on joint patterns, support the earlier conclusions that the area around the water supply infrastructure is more fractured and faulted than the SGEIS portrays. Technical reports have been released recently that directly link hydraulic fracturing to small earthquakes in Blackpool, England, and potentially in Oklahoma. The SGEIS concludes that the magnitude of the microseismic events is too small to be an issue. This may be true with respect to surface structure like houses. However, the city's infrastructure is located deep underground. Given the identified risks to the New York City water supply infrastructure, the 1,000-foot zone proposed in the SGEIS for enhanced coordination with the city is inadequate to protect the water supply. Other risks we will address in our comment letter include the potential for the treatment of drilling wastewater within the watershed, impacts from solid waste handling and disposal, potential chemical spills, and damage to city-owned roads, bridges due to increased truck traffic. In closing, we again thank DEC for the tremendous protection that a ban on high-volume hydrofracking provides to the consumers of New York City water. We look forward to discussing these remaining issues in the future as partners in our efforts to perfect this invaluable resource.
Thank you, Commissioner Rush. Next speaker is Eric Goldstein.
Eric Goldstein, Natural Resources Defense Council. Thank you for extending the comment period. Thank you, Councilmember Jim Gennaro, for your continuing leadership. Governor Andrew Cuomo, who's had a long-time, strong record on behalf of the environment, has pledged New York State must ensure that if and when the shale's natural gas is obtained, it does not come at the expense of human health or have adverse environmental impacts. Unfortunately, the state's draft environmental study and the proposed regulations, which would allow for large-scale fracking throughout the southern portion of the state, will not fulfill the governor's fracking pledge. Are New Yorkers going to accept a fracking program that doesn't fully safeguard all drinking water supplies around the state? No. Are New Yorkers going to accept a fracking program that doesn't have a protective strategy for handling hazardous wastewaters and other liquid and solid waste generated by this heavy industry? No! Are New Yorkers going to accept a fracking program on such a scale that it industrializes our cherished communities and permanently alters their landscapes? No! Here's a few words of suggestion for our friends at the state DEC. Go back to your offices and rethink the direction you're heading in. Come back with an environmental impact statement that describes the cumulative environmental impacts of the 42,000 or even 62,000 wells that you project will be constructed over the first 30 years of your fracking program. Come back with an EIS that analyzes the potential adverse public health impacts of such full build-outs and that assesses the socioeconomic costs of such build-outs to agriculture, to tourism, to other sustainable economic anchors in the Marcellus Shale. And come back with an EIS that proves to us, through demonstration or pilot projects, that fracking can be done safely in New York before you attempt to launch any large-scale fracking program around the state. Finally, a message to the fracking industry. We don't want New York's air pollution from your large-scale fracking operations or our roads jammed with high-volume truck traffic, as you've already done in Wyoming and Texas. We don't want New York's irreplaceable water resources contaminated with methane and fracking-related pollutants, as you've already done in West Virginia and Pennsylvania. Downstate and upstate New Yorkers working with our elected officials hand in hand are simply not going to let business as usual fracking express plow through New York and jeopardize the water we drink, the air we breathe, or the communities we live in.
Stop the clock. Again, please, hold your applause. I'm stopping the clock.
Detailed written comments to follow.
Thank you, Mr. President.